So here's a 5-week update on my Carrot Determination safety boots. If this is the first video review you've seen, there's a few other topics I cover with these, some of which being like my first initial thoughts. I did an unboxing video. I did a video after the first 5 days, the first full work week of me wearing these shoes. Things I'm going to cover in this video is just basically how these shoes have held up over the last 5 weeks. And then what my thoughts are after the full initial break-in period of wearing these shoes. So just a quick synopsis, quick summary. Hands down the best shoe I've ever worn. These meet all of my expectations for what I was hoping to get out of a pair of barefoot shoes, barefoot work shoes. There are a few mainly personal preference issues I have with these shoes. So just to give you a view of how these are holding up after 5 weeks, there's no real tears in the leather. Here's the bottom of the sole. I did mention in some of my other videos that I was concerned about the treading and that they were just going to be a magnet for catching debris. And while that is true, you'll see some pebbles in there. I found some pieces of wire in here. I'm an electrician or an automation engineer, so I'm dealing with wire. I did see some insulation in here. I work in plastics. There, right there is a plastic resin pebble. If you worked in construction, if you were in an area where there's more debris, you're working in a dirtier environment. I work in a plastics facility. It's a food grade facility, so it's a very clean facility. I imagine you're going to pick up a lot more stuff in your tread than what I do. There is one thing I'm keeping my eye on, in that sole right there. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera. There's a little crack that's forming right there, and oddly enough, the same crack is forming in both shoes. You can see it right there. Sorry, the lighting's not great. See a little crack right there. But the leather itself, I'm not super easy on my shoes, so they're getting a little beat up a little bit. But it's holding up fantastic. Inside of the shoe, again, lighting's not great. I'm not any kind of professional with this. It's holding up good on the inside. A lot of issues I've had with other safety shoes, other boots, they put this stupid piece of plastic on the heel inside of it. And then often on the inside here, you'll start to wear that out and then plastic will pop out. But this is just solid leather. That's all it is. It's no other material in here other leather, and then your fabric on the inside. But that's holding up well. I have not upgraded the insole. I am considering upgrading the insole. I was somewhat busy this week. I was on the production floor a lot more than I normally am, and I was on my feet a lot more than I am this past week. That is the one area where I felt any form of discomfort. Wasn't bad, honestly. Some of the non-barefoot shoes I've had that have more padding on the insoles are still significantly more uncomfortable than these are. Again, that's a preference thing, and that's something that you can easily swap out. I've shown some other videos that have shown the insole. This is a rather thin insole with very little cushioning, and then the actual shoe itself, that's just the solid rubber you're stepping on. So again, I work in a facility where I'm walking on a concrete floor all day. So that is one thing I may upgrade. Again, point of preference, I hate high top boots. I hate them so much. I wish Carrot would make a low top option. And that's kind of why I'm making these videos. Carrot is not advertising these shoes practically at all. There are no review videos out there. So I'm trying to help Carrot sell this boot. I want more of a market for this boot because I want more options, more style options in these boots. But some of my issues with them being high top is foot flexibility. As I break them in, I'm getting more flexibility in the ankle, but it's still somewhat stiff. And that does lead to one issue I find if I'm walking a lot, because it's a steel toe and because you have a thicker sole, because you have that puncture resistance. That's one of the safety regulations that Carrot meets, is that puncture resistance. You get a bend point, a pinch point right here in the toe, and often you can see how that pinches like that. That does, when that folds down like that, it does fold down and I can feel it on the top of my foot. I would say that's really the only point of, if I want to say if there's any discomfort I get wearing these shoes, it's that right there. That's practically it. As the weather starts to heat up, it's currently coming up on the end of April. I live in Eastern PA, and it's been a rather chilly start to spring, but my facility does get hot in the summer. This boot does not seem like it breathes. It's a leather boot. No ventilation at all in it. So I'm curious to see in the dog days of summer, I think I'm gonna get swamp feet. That's another reason why I want a low top option. The fact that this is high top, it's just holding in more of that heat and humidity, and sweat inside of my foot. So I think at the end of summer, I'll do another review video where I tell you how well my feet held up throughout the summer. But durability wise, these things are holding up like a champ. It is a very well-made boot, well-constructed boot. Even some of the concerns I had initially with the sole, I was kind of concerned with the tread pattern breaking off because the way they cut the tread all the way to the edge. I would like Carrot in future iterations of this boot to leave a solid strip of rubber around the edge. However, it's not as much of an issue. I really thought within the first couple of weeks that these bits here would start to break off, and I was worrying that as these edge pieces broke off, that the breaking off would continue throughout the shoe. You do see there are pieces, like you can see that right there, where that is starting to tear. So I do anticipate that happening as I wear these longer. It's only been 5 weeks. So again, toward the end of the summer, I might do like a 6-week review, or I'm sorry, a 6-month review video on these to see how that has held up. But overall, if you are looking for a barefoot option in safety boots, one, your options are limited. It's these and the QS700s. It's really the only options I see out there. I can't speak on the QS700s. I don't know how well they are, but I do absolutely love these boots. I've been in manufacturing for 11 years. Prior to that, 5 years in the Navy. So I've been in safety boots for the last 16 years of my life. And other than the boots I'm issued in the Navy, these are the only boots that I think I'll buy again. In a couple of years when I wear through these, I, at this point, anticipate that I will replace these boots with these boots, or hopefully, in a couple of years, Carrot will have more style options. One thing I am also keep an eye on, they do use these metal eyelets here for the laces, and you can already see I'm starting to wear through that. So it's 5 weeks of wear, and I'm already starting to cut through my laces. That's one other thing they could probably afford to upgrade, is just with that being that metal loop like that, it's gonna cut the laces. So I do anticipate here in, I don't know, 6 months or so, I gotta replace the laces, but big deal. Any other questions or comments? leave them in the comments and I'll respond to them. But yeah, if I had to give these a score out of 100, this is definitely in the 90 range. It's the most comfortable boot I've ever worn. It meets everything that I wanted in a barefoot safety shoe, other than, like I said, the high top feature. This is checking every single box.